Hello and welcome to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center, a resource center located in Naperville for people in career transition. Career Center will bring human resource professionals and other experts together to provide job search tips to assist you as you search for your next success. Later on Career Center, Recruiter Molly Theus will join me to discuss job search trends and tips. But first, I'm happy to have Bruce Martin, President of Broad Pattison Incorporated, on the show. Welcome, Bruce.
Good to be here.
I have a long intro there.
Yes, no doubt.
Well, thank you so much for being on this show. Before we delve into the questions, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Sure.
And also your company.
Sure. I've been in the automotive industry and recruiting for about the last 30 years. I started with a major OEM manufacturer in Detroit and moved to working with their captive finance arm, their lending arm for Chrysler, and then into an executive role with a large multinational recruiting firm. And about 16 years ago, I married those two together and started Broad Pattison Automotive Search, and we search and recruit exclusively for the U.S. auto industry, major manufacturers, automotive lenders, suppliers, major dealer groups, all within the U.S.
Great. And so your office is located?
We're here in DuPage County, and we service clients that range from New York to Atlanta to Dallas to California. So
all over. So if a client came in and said, you know, Bruce, I'm looking to relocate to California, right, you will?
Absolutely. And if a candidate is willing to relocate nationally, you know, that is a real key for a lot of these executive roles. You know, a lot of times you can't stay where you're located. Right. Now you have to, you know, kind of bite the bullet and make those moves. But we do place people here in Chicagoland. I mean, it's a big regional hub for a lot of manufacturers. Right, and it just opens up a lot more possibilities and opportunities if you're willing to relocate. It does, absolutely. There's no doubt about that helps with that next career progression because, you know, much like a pyramid, if you only want to stay in one spot at the top, there's fewer at the top, but as you're willing to broaden your base of location, it opens up more opportunities. Right, so when you're working with a client, and let's say they want to stay in the Chicagoland area, and it just becomes a little tougher maybe to help them land. At what point do you say, do you want to open it up and look out at some other cities? Well, honestly, it's one of the first questions that we ask when we start talking with a candidate who's either looking to make a move, who's been displaced, who's looking to, you know, break into our industry, into the automotive industry. It is one of the first questions because I would say 90% of our clients, they recruit strategically, which means they're not just looking for someone for this next job, but then that next job, the next job. And these are global organizations with a huge footprint here in the U.S. So staying in Chicago or any market you're in, if you really do want to move up and move on for more opportunities, relocation is definitely part of the equation. Good. So what is the job search climate like? I know in 2008, 9, it was pretty tough automotive industry, right? It was. Do I have my years correct? You do, yeah. Okay. The industry kind of followed the downturn with the mortgage lending and all that. But honestly, it has come back in a big way. The automotive industry is booming. It is without a doubt, not just automotive, but in general, the recruiting environment is very candidate friendly right now, which means they have a lot more options. There's a lot more jobs out there than there are candidates right now. So candidates have a lot more options as they're looking at opportunities. In fact, today, our firm, we've been working on this executive level for a major automotive manufacturer. Our candidate was one of 2 finalists, and he did not get the job. So, and that's tough. Exactly. But, for you and the client, right? Exactly. Yeah. But the candidate had another option. So even though the first choice was with our client, he was able to land somewhere else because he had another option. So the climate is very candidate friendly right now. And that's good for us because clients come to us and say, we need you to find the candidate that will take our job. Right. So when a candidate doesn't land, you know, oftentimes if they're not working with a recruiter, they're dealing with this, you know, on their own. But when they are working with you, how do you kind of help soften that blow for them? Well, with not landing, with not getting the job today, we knew that this individual had something else in the mix, and we'd share that with our clients, saying, hey, if you really want him, you need to have a good offer, and he did not get the offer. Not getting the job is kind of a, you know, we let them know we'll keep you on our radar. It can be difficult. It's a letdown for them. It's how we feed our families. So we're kind of in it together, even though we work for the client. the candidate and the recruiter all have a vested interest, even if it's an internal recruiter at the company. If the candidate turns down an offer, now they've got to start their process over. Now that candidate that lost the opportunity today, he would have had to start his over if he didn't have another opportunity. So there's a lot of dominoes that fall when an offer is turned down or when someone doesn't get an offer.
Now, what about if somebody wants to transition into your industry, if you will?
Sure.
How easy is that when you hear that there's a lot of opportunities?
The transition can be easy if it's in a very in an area where the skills are transferable. Human resources is one, IT is another one, finance is another one. Those skills plug into almost any industry, from healthcare to real estate to automotive. They really do plug in. We do have, like every industry, we do have specialized areas where our clients are looking for someone with, whether it's dealer network or whether it's a certain kind of marketing with dealers and with ad associations. So those can be difficult to break into, but some of those transferable ones, like I said, finance and all that,
and IT.
definitely plug in as if you want to break into the automotive or any industry.
So what is the process one would go through when they come through your...
Well, for us, there's a couple ways. We have a website that gets a ton of traffic, and we post our executive positions on that website. And allows the candidate to let us know how much money they're making now, what they're looking to make, present their credentials to us. And we're also very networked on, sites like LinkedIn and others, where candidates come to us that way, not specifically for one job, but just to kind of get on our radar, introduce themselves. We make that connection and then kind of keep them in the bullpen, for lack of a better term, for when a job might come down the road. So they reach out to us through social media, through our website, or even directly through email, once they hear about us.
Well, let's talk a little bit about advice for job seekers. I like to always ask recruiters, because I think you all have different, advice. And so as it relates to networking, what is some advice that you...
I think the big thing for me with networking is to network the way you would interview. And if I'm networking with you, I want you to see the best me that I would show to someone that I'm actually interviewing with, because you're going to turn around and tell, it's like the old shampoo commercial, and she told two friends, and she told two friends. I really want you to have that same good impression of me as someone I'm actually sitting across a table interviewing with. So I tell people, network the way you interview. Be confident, but don't be cocky. Don't stalk your network, but don't be depressed about it. Just find that. I have a friend who uses the term, when he sees someone driving a car that's too big for them, he'll say, know your vehicle. Well, I think knowing your vehicle, it really does apply to a lot of areas in life, including your career. Know what lane you're in and be confident about that lane, whether you're networking with someone who might be in your industry, or if you're sitting across from someone who's interviewing you. Really know what lane you're in and stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about resumes? I mean, there's tons of, tips and ideas out there for resumes. So
I just turned 50, so maybe I'm a little bit old school, but I'm not a fan of a lot of the graphics and color. I really think
those are appropriate for like graphic design type.
It is, absolutely. But in a management or executive role, sometimes that looks like you're trying too hard, and it really, that creativity that you're showing on the resume, use the resume to get yourself in the door, and then let that creativity come out in the interview. But going with graphics and pictures and too much that can get too busy, almost like a coloring book, that resume is really your foot in the door. So the way we put it on our website, the advice we give is stay clean, stay on 2 pages. Don't get
2 pages.
For us, 2 pages. I mean, unless you're a guy interviewing to be the CEO of Ford and you want to really go deep into your CV, I think 2 pages for most management or executive people is more than enough, because honestly, when someone's reading a resume, they're going to lose focus by the time they get to a 3rd page and forget what they read on the first page. It's just human nature. So I think keeping it clean and tight in 2 pages, at least for me, and it's been 16 years, and again, maybe I'm a bit of a old school on that, but I think 2 pages.
I would agree with you. And then in terms of, applicant tracking systems, if you have all those, pretty pictures and things, it just won't pick it up.
Right. Sometimes it doesn't translate. Sometimes their software will get confused by it. So your main goal is to get their attention with your credentials, not with your ability to do PowerPoint or to do graphics. And you're absolutely right. Some of the more advanced software, because a lot of resumes come through these companies, even the ones we give companies, sometimes we have to input them into that tracking system, and it gets all askew, and you've got a picture over here and a chart over there. So
what is the first thing you look at when you look at someone's resume? Do you look at their summary statement? Do you go straight to, what they've done?
It really all depends on the job for me. If it's an executive sales or marketing job, my first thing is I look how the resume looks, because that's how the client's going to look at it. This is a sales or marketing person. So how are they selling and marketing themselves, right? That means that's the biggest sale they're going to make is themselves. So in those kind of jobs, that's what I look at. I really do look at those first 2 jobs, most recent 2 jobs someone's been in, just to get an idea of, is our client going to go, wow, those are relevant credentials right here today? If it's not there in those first 2 jobs, we dig a little bit deeper, and then we have to do a little bit more of a sell job with the client to say, hey, don't just read the first page, get to the second page, because he or she was in this job here and that job there. They have the skills, but they've moved into a different area, so don't discount it because it's on the second page.
Right. And as we're wrapping up here in a little bit, what about working with recruiters, like internal recruiters?
Right. I think that respecting the internal recruiter, you can have a little bit more of a priest approach with an external recruiter.
I like that priest approach.
Right, because you can really come and say, hey, a lot of these things are, even though we work for the client, you can share a little bit more about your pain, about what's going on with your spouse or what's going on, financially with you. The internal recruiter is really close to the hiring manager, so there's more of a information flow there that maybe you wouldn't want to get through. So, but respecting that internal recruiter and not peppering his or her inbox, and just respecting their process, I think, is a big key.
Thing.
Right? Don't be a stalker. Respect their process. If they say they'll get back to you, let them get back to you. If they don't, maybe one note to touch base, but seriously, don't litter their inbox.
Right. And then what about external search firms?
Well, like I said, we're a little bit more, while we do work for the client, we're a little bit more independent.
Okay.
And we don't mind checking in every now and again with the client, with the candidate, because when this job's over, like I mentioned with the individual before, if it's not this job, maybe it's another one. So we don't mind keeping that communication open, but you have to recognize that with the internal person, they might have 40 or 50 jobs that they're trying to fill.
Right.
And for you to continue to communicate with them, it's easier to communicate with us that way, because we're a little bit independent of the client.
Very good. Wow, this is a lot of great information.
I'm looking forward to the end of November. That'll be fun.
Yeah, so you're going to be at the Community Career Center on November 30th. I think it's at 12:45. Ask the Recruiter. Yep. So for our viewing audience, if you are looking for
kind of a no agenda, just like this, just talk and.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We're out of time.
It's been good to be here.
All right, Bruce, thank you for being on the show. Up next, Smart Resources recruiter Molly Theus will join me to discuss job search trends and tips. We'll be right back after these important public service announcements.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Good things happen at the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. Experience more than 25,000 acres where native plants and animals make their home. Discover the scenic beauty of over 60 forest preserves containing forests, prairies, and wetlands. Explore the wonder of changing seasons along 145 miles of trails. Get outside and discover the good things that happen when you visit DuPage Forest Preserves. The Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, where good things happen.
Today, more than ever before, women are on the front lines of America's defense. These brave women struggle and sacrifice to help keep our country secure. They deserve to be recognized for their service as guardians of freedom. Please support the American Legion's efforts to serve the growing number of women veterans. Go to legion.org/honor veterans to find out how you can help.
Welcome back to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center, and I am happy to have on the show Recruiter Molly Theus. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you so much.
So, Molly, before we get into the questions about what you all do there at Smart Resources, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and Smart Resources?
Absolutely. So my name is Molly Theus again. So happy to be here. I'm a recruiter at Smart Resources. We do specialize in customer service, administrative support, staffing. So those can be temporary to hire positions, direct hire roles, long-term temporary, short-term temporary, kind of anything like that.
Okay.
We are a free resource to job seekers.
So free meaning if someone were to come to you, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so that process would essentially be job applicants, job seekers, unemployed, employed candidates can come to Smart Resources, kind of send us their resume via submission to our website, or they can check out our job board and submit their resume directly to positions. Once we kind of review those resumes, go over it, make sure that we're going to be able to position ourselves for success with our candidates, then we can reach out to them, have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation, bring them in for an interview with us in our Oak Brook office, and hopefully start sending them out on interviews and helping them land somewhere.
So you mentioned Oak Brook. So your office is in Oak Brook, but your main office is in Chicago. Is that correct?
Yes. So we have two offices, one downtown in the city of Chicago. They are specifically working with companies as well as job seekers in the city, whereas our Oak Brook office works with a large suburban territory as far north as Des Plaines, as far west as the St. Charles area, even going as far south as New Lenox. So we cover a wide area here in our suburban office in Oak Brook.
Okay, and you mentioned it's a free resource, meaning the employer then pays you.
Exactly,
right?
yes. So we are compensated through the companies that we are staffing for. So that's how we can afford to be a free resource to our job seekers that we're working with. No cost at all in beginning your networking with us and your kind of job searching with Smart Resources.
Okay, now how do clients find you? Or do you all go out and do you go out on LinkedIn and look for folks?
Yeah, so both. The way that we kind of collect our candidates and our job seekers and really find great talent is through the use of referrals. We oftentimes get a lot of referrals from people who have used our services in the past, really enjoyed our service, so they refer people over to us, which is great. And then we utilize Career Builder, Monster, LinkedIn, as well as job fairs, outreach like this with community career centers where we can, kind of cast a wider net and really just try to reach more people.
Right. And so how many of your clients, so you mentioned earlier you have temp to hire, how many of your clients end up landing into like a full-time regular work environment?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're really, really proud of our success rate at Smart Resources. 9 out of 10 candidates do successfully transition to permanent employment through Smart Resources. And again, we pride ourselves on that because it is a reflection of our service and how our follow-up works, as well as, of course, the caliber of candidates that we recruit. And we're really proud of that rate.
Good. So, there's a lot of recruiters out there and recruiting agencies out there, right? So what makes Smart Resources unique, different?
Yeah, so I can kind of speak to this on a personal level. I started with Smart Resources as a temporary associate. I came in seeking, HR opportunities. They had a position open up internally. So I actually started at Smart as a temporary associate and transitioned permanently. So in my experience on both sides of that interview desk, Smart Resources really prioritizes transparency, being completely open and honest with our candidates, truly treating them like they want to be treated, and acknowledging that this is a job search. It's intense, it's stressful, it can be really defeating sometimes, so we really want to make it a more positive experience for our job seekers. And then likewise, the companies that we're working with to fill positions, we try to be a little bit more consultative. Really give them information and facts about market trends and what, pay rates are kind of looking like at this point and try to get the best for our candidates.
So it's really good that you've been on kind of both sides of that, right?
For me personally, I really value that experience. I think it
can pass that on too.
Definitely, I'm better able to do my job.
Yeah. So how do you guide a job seeker in terms of, you've got this great company, there's a temp to hire, could be permanent. what's some advice you would provide to the job seeker?
So it's really going to depend on the opportunity. When, of course, any job seeker is looking for a new role, it's important to kind of tailor your experience to that role in that company. Always good to find a good fit for you too, but if it's something where you really want to make yourself shine, and where we would want to help our candidate shine, we'd maybe give them some advice on how to kind of align their experience with the role at hand. Little tidbits about company culture that can align with what they're looking for, where they can really make that shine in their interview process. Just really kind of try to prep thoroughly for an interview before they're.
Do you then, so they'll tweak their resume kind of based, not tweak, but make sure that you're focused on what it is that they're looking for, and that you clearly provide, or you have those skills that they're looking for, but you make sure you highlight those.
Definitely. It's one of those things where, of course, everybody that we're sending over to a company is certainly qualified for that position. We're not, getting rid of roles or anything like that, but just definitely making sure that during that face-to-face interview, they're poised to highlight those experiences in their job history that are a good match and very similar, and show that they are the best candidate for this position.
Are you seeing any, what's some of the challenges that you see that job seekers are faced in terms of searching?
I think it's a changing job market and the way that people apply for positions. There's less face-to-face interaction. It's a little bit more through databases like Career Builder, Monster, which certainly are decreasing chances just a little bit when you're in a larger applicant pool like that. But that's where staffing agencies can be a really good resource, because we take resumes, we take candidates and put them directly in front of hiring personnel, HR professionals with maybe four others, which is greatly increasing your chances of getting that face-to-face interview where you can really make that connection, show that you're the best fit for the position, as well as the company culture.
Right. So how does one make sure their resume stands out on like a Career Builder or Monster, because they're inundated with resumes, right?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So again,
and those keywords are those.
Keywords are going to be important. I mean, definitely make sure you're placing keywords into your resume that align with the roles that you're looking for. A lot of times it goes by keyword searches, so make sure you're making that word prevalent in your resume as much as possible. But additionally, just have a very clean resume. In my industry, if somebody looks at your resume and it's not necessarily organized the way that they're looking for, or maybe it's a bit too long or something like that, just make sure you're keeping things very concise, organizing your resume appropriately, having clear headings for education, work experience, volunteer experience. Make sure you're checking things like tenses on your resume to make sure that those are all in the correct tense, punctuation, spelling. If one of your skills is that you're detail-oriented, you want to make sure your resume is detail-oriented.
Yeah. Do you, is that one of the things, when you're looking at a candidate's resume, is that kind of in the no pile once you see?
No, I mean, not for me. I of course can only speak for myself, and Smart Resources, we do kind of train this across the board. If it's a resume where maybe the tenses are not all consistent, or maybe there are some punctuation issues, I would never, disqualify a candidate for that. I just think that means, maybe they'd be open to a conversation about tweaking that resume to improve it, make it read a little bit better. If you've got the skills, I'm going to call you about a position. If you're open to a conversation about tweaking that resume so it reads a little bit better, even better for me. You
mentioned earlier about, clean, concise resume. And there is a lot of folks who like to, make their resumes look pretty. What's your thought on that?
I think that depends on the role you're applying for. If you're applying for a marketing position or an advertising role, something like that, of course you're going to want to embellish it, maybe put in some features there that show you have some skills with that type of stuff. But if it is more of an administrative position, something a little more, cut and dry corporate, you're definitely just going to want to keep it simple. Keep it clear cut there.
What about networking? Do you all spend a lot of time with your clients just teaching them other things? Obviously, resume is good, but what about, networking, or do you go put them through mock interviews? What are some other things that you do?
We do. So again, sometimes, people walk through the door and it seems like it's second nature for them. They know what to do and very professional and maybe need a little bit less coaching at that point than others. But we're always open to mock interviews. We do, again, thorough preps before interviews where we almost kind of go through it, what questions will be asked. If there's a situation where people want to improve their Microsoft Office scores, we do offer tutorials for that, different resources there to improve software experience. So we try to provide as many resources as possible to our candidates. Again, open door policy, all our job seekers have to do is kind of ask for those things, and we're happy to deliver that service. Yeah, so talk just a little bit more about the types of openings that you have. You said customer service. Yes, so customer service, that could be in a call center environment, or that could be a little bit more account management where you have your own set clients. It's a little bit more of a tailored experience. Also data entry positions, reception, entry-level administrative assistants, more senior administrative assistants, executive assistants. We could get marketing positions, HR. We do occasionally get some sales roles in, not our niche, but occasionally as well. Okay, and full-time, part-time, benefits? Do benefits typically come with some of these roles? Yeah, so most of our positions are going to be full-time positions. We do occasionally have some part-time roles available. As far as benefits are concerned, if it is a temporary to hire or a long-term temporary position, benefits kick in through Smart Resources after 30 days of employment. Otherwise, after 30 days, yep. And then otherwise, if it's a direct hire role, then of course that all goes through the company that you are kind of being onboarded with, their benefits package, everything through that. So if someone is, going from different temp positions with you, after they've been on board for 30 days, then they have continued benefits. Yep, continued health benefits. Good. And so some of the companies, are you able to share any of the companies that you work for? And sometimes I know that's, something you can't do. But unfortunately, I cannot. It is a confidential, all of our searches are confidential searches. But in our downtown office, we boast some pretty big name clients that you probably have a few apps for on your phone. And of course, out here in the suburbs, again, working with some kind of great larger scale corporations out here. So if a client came in and said, I really don't want to be in Chicago, downtown Chicago, you have a lot of, you're right there on the I-88 corridor, so there's a lot of companies. Absolutely. Yeah. We're pretty much right there by 294, 290, 88. So, we really kind of branch out all over the suburban territory. Great. Wow. Well, thank you so much. We are out of time. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for having me. I also want to thank Bruce Martin for joining me on this month's edition of Career Center. And to our television audience, if you're unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, visit the Community Career Center at 1815 West Dill Road, Suite 900 in Naperville, or search us on the web at www.communitycareercenter.org to learn more about the resources available to you as you search for your next success. Thanks so much for watching.